Welcome to the podcast about being unmessable with, no matter what life throws at you. Here is your host, Josselyne Herman-Saccio.
Hey there, welcome to Be Unmessable With, the podcast. I'm your host, Josselyne Herman-Saccio, and today I want to talk about something that most people get really weird about, and that is making requests. Most people are horrible at making requests. Now, they don't realize they're horrible at it because everybody's so horrible at it. It just seems like normal. But the first piece of making a powerful request is to have it be clear and actionable and time bound. Okay, I'll talk more about what I mean by that. But a lot of people make requests like, well, if you're not busy on Friday, it would be great if we could maybe go to the movie. That's not a request. That's like, I don't even know what that is. But I request we go, or I invite you to the movies Friday at 7:00. That is time bound. It's got a 7:00 time. It's on Friday. And it's specific and actionable. So if somebody says yes to that invitation or request, then they will know exactly what they're saying yes to. If you say something like, well, can you help me? First of all, it's not even a request, it's a question. Can you help me is different than will you help me? But even that, will you help me, isn't clear. It's like, what does that mean? If I say yes, I don't know what I'm saying yes to. And if I say no, I don't know what I'm saying no to. So getting your requests clear and actionable so that the person would know the exact action that they are saying yes to taking and time bound is the first step to being able to be really powerful with making requests and invitations. Now, why is it important to be good at that? Is because you can, talk about your vision all day long till you're blue in the face, but without an invitation or request, nothing actually ever happens in reality. And that's where your goals and vision gets fulfilled, is in reality, not just in conversation, but people taking certain actions, whether it's, will you give me a 10% raise by next month? Or will you hire me to be your advisor for the next year at this rate? So all of those kind of things are specific, they're actionable. The person knows exactly what they're saying yes to or exactly what they're saying no to. So, a lot of people go around in life with these sort of, they're not really requests, they're just sort of throwing things out there like, let's do lunch. Okay, when? Get your calendar out. If it's not a clear time and date, it's not a real lunch. It's a let's do lunch, quote unquote, someday, which is not a real day. I don't care who you are. You have never found a day called someday in your calendar. It is not a real day. And you have a lot of those like, okay, will you help me with this project? What does that even mean? What do you need me to do? By when? So actionable, clear, and time bound is critical. When you're working with a team at work, this is something that a lot of teams end up not being good at. And then there's a lot of unfulfilled expectations. So if, as a supervisor, you say, okay, I need this report ASAP, not a real time. ASAP is not a real time. When do you need the report? Friday at 5:00? Then the person who's doing the report needs to really look and see, can they deliver on that time? And if you don't give them a specific time, then their ASAP might be a very different ASAP than yours. So this is something to begin to practice. And the same thing when you accept a request. If somebody makes a request of you, you should really look to make sure that you are authentically saying yes to whatever they're expecting. So if they say ASAP, if somebody says to me, I need this ASAP, I say, okay, well, what does that mean? When do you actually need it? So that I can authentically look and see if I have the space and time to be able to take the actions to deliver on that item, that deliverable. So when you accept a request, make it clear and time bound. Like, I will let you know at 5:00 on Monday, whatever it is that you're supposed to let the person know. Or, if your wife asks you to rub her neck, you could say, I will rub your neck for 10 minutes. Otherwise, all you have is your wife's expectation that you're going to rub her neck for a half an hour, and you're just kind of rubbing it till you feel like not rubbing it. And then there's a recipe for upset and disappointment. Okay, so that's with regard to making requests. Now, why people get even weirder about requests when it's time to make them is because they're afraid of what the person's going to say. They're afraid the person's going to say no, or, if they say no, what does that mean about your relationship? Maybe they don't like you. They don't value you enough to say yes to your request for a raise. All this drama that goes around somebody's yes or somebody's no or somebody's yes, but. So I want to talk about each of those different spaces because any of those could happen after you make a clean, clear, actionable, time-bound request. So first of all, people get weird when people say yes to them. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but oftentimes, you'll make a request and say, so will you do XYZ by this time? And the person says yes. And you're like, are you sure? I mean, you are really busy. So you start to put your considerations in the space of the yes rather than celebrating the yes. So what I advise people to do when I work with them is to really celebrate the yes. Why? Because it's not a yes to you. It's also not a no to you, by the way. What someone's saying yes to is the opportunity that request represents. So every time you make an invitation or a request, there is a potential new future that just got created. If I requested that you have lunch with me next Friday at 2, that's a new future that could get fulfilled. If you say yes, now that's a future that's going to get fulfilled, assuming that we both honor our word and that there isn't an emergency that happens in the meantime. But what you're celebrating is the new future, that opportunity fulfilled, that possibility fulfilled. If somebody says yes to being on your board of directors, they didn't say yes to you. They said yes to the opportunity to fulfill on some vision to make a difference or contribute that being on the board of directors represents for them. So when somebody says yes, my coaching is to celebrate. Say, yes, I'm so excited you're going to be on the board of directors. I've been wanting to work with you for so long. This is going to be great. Rather than what a lot of people do is they get all professional, like, oh, yes, you'll have dinner with me. Terrific. Okay, what time? 7? Okay, great. Yeah, see you then. And let me tell you something. It's a very different dinner if you respond that way than if you say, yes, I'm so excited you're going to have dinner with me. Where do you want to go? Let's go someplace really cool that we've both never been. All of a sudden, what you just said yes to is a different flavor of future. A different flavor of future gets created in how you respond to somebody's yes. Okay, so that's with yeses. But now let's look at nos. Because people get super weird about no's, because if somebody says no, they make it mean something, either about them or about their project or their company. And they do all sorts of strange stuff. Like first they take it personally and they get upset. Like, well, fine. That's why your life sucks, because you always say no to everybody. Or they might reflexively say, well, why not? And the minute you say why not, that person is forced to give you a bunch of reasons to justify why they said no. I recommend never asking why not, because even if they don't even know the reason, they're forced to come up with one that's going to be good enough to justify why they said no. So don't say why not. Don't take it personally. These are all the things not to do with a no. Don't try and change the no and convince them to be a yes. All you need to do with no is just get it. Actually accept the no. It's not a problem. It just is no for now. It doesn't even mean no forever. I mean, there are times where you've said no to something and then you changed your mind and then you say yes, if there's space there. But if you're forced to give a bunch of reasons, you're locking the person into a no. You're making them have to defend their no. So now to change their mind is like unheard of because they just built a whole case for the no. So you just gracefully accept the no, say thank you so much for letting me know where you're at, or however you want to say it. And then, and you can't fake this, this is the thing, in certain contexts, again, obviously in the context is decisive. So in certain contexts of business, you would just say, thank you so much for considering doing business with me. But if, your husband and you say, can I request we go on vacation in December, as a family, and he says, no, get the no, And then in the space that gets created by getting a communication, and this is something most people are not good at, when you just don't add any meaning or taking it personally or trying to change the no, what happens is in the next moment of time, there's really nothing there because you didn't resist what was there in the prior moment. When you resist something, it keeps it in place. It makes it bigger and bigger and adds more mass to it. When you don't resist something, it just sort of passes. And in the next moment, there's nothing there. And if you've done any work with me, you know that everything I coach people in is about getting to nothing so that they have a blank canvas to be able to create anything they want. And in the moment of getting a communication, not resisting it, not trying to change it, not trying to have the person justify it, it just disappears. And in the next moment, there's nothing there. And in that moment, you can say, can we have a conversation? Now, if the person says, no, we can't have a conversation, then you just say, okay, thank you so much for whatever it is, right? But if your husband says, no, we can't have a conversation, there is a conversation to have. And it is about what is going on. Like, are you upset with me? What happened? Because there's something in the space. And if you get the communication, then what's in the space is something that he's upset about or she's upset about from the past that's still there. So there's no space to actually have a conversation. Now, you don't say, can we have a conversation about that? Because you just brought the no back into the space. You're not having a conversation about the no. You could be having a conversation about your vision for this year with your family. What's your vision for our vacation schedule this year? What would you want to create? And so now you're brainstorming. You're in a conversation for what's possible, for vision, for dreams, for what you really want as a family. And you always want to end up in a conversation for vision or commitment, because when you speak to people's commitment, they rise to the occasion. When you speak to their considerations, their reasons, then they sink to that occasion. And what gets bigger in the conversation are the reasons and considerations. If you speak to the vision or the commitment, that's what gets bigger in the conversation. So let's go to what you get a lot of the times when you make a request or an invitation is what I call a yes, but. A yes, but is like, well, I'd like to go to dinner with you, but I have plans on Friday night. Or I'd love to be on your board, but I'm really, really busy. Or I'd like to give you a raise, but we've had like a really rough quarter. Or, you know, I'd like to go out on a date with you, but I'm married. Something like that, right? So what do you do with a yes, but? Because most of what you get from people are these kind of responses. Now, the first thing you need to do is get clear about whether or not it's a real yes, but, or it's a no pretending to be a yes, but just to get you off their back or, you know, get out of the conversation without having to deal with anything. And you have done that. You have said yes, but when you had no intention of being a yes, you're like, oh yeah, I'd really like to go to that karaoke night. Let me check my schedule. Liar. You don't want to go to that karaoke night. And you just say that to sort of be nice or not have to confront anything or not have to hurt their feelings or to get them off your back. So you need to get clear about the person's commitment. Again, this all goes back to focusing on the vision and the commitment of the person. So how do you do that? So if somebody says, yeah, I'd like to be on your board of directors, but I really have a lot on my plate right now, then what you would do is say, so let me make sure I'm hearing what you're committed to. You're committed to being on my board. You're just not sure how to work out the schedule. Is that what you're saying? And in that moment, the reality of the yes, but will emerge. It's either going to be more reasons like, well, it's not just the schedule. I've got to talk to my other boards and I've got to talk to my wife and I've got to talk. All of a sudden, you're going to have 2 or 3 other reasons. That person is a no pretending to be a yes, but. And in that case, you just go back to the no thing and just get it and say, thanks so much for letting me know where you are. If they are a true yes, but if they say, yeah, I am really committed, I'm just not so sure about the schedule, then what you do, and this is, by the way, the same thing with a personal situation, like, yeah, I'd really like to have dinner with you, but I don't think this week is going to work. It's like, okay, so would you like to have a conversation to brainstorm on how we could make it work right now? And now you are in the same game as that person. You are looking to see how to make something work from the same side of the net, so to speak, if you were going to use a tennis analogy. Although I don't know how much the tennis analogy works in this case, but you're looking to say, okay, well, here's the situation. My board meetings are every other month on a Wednesday. You can do it virtually. You can miss up to 2 meetings a year or whatever the circumstances are. How would that work for you? And then the person can really authentically look and see if it works. Same thing like, okay, well, this weekend doesn't work for you. So let's look, what would be a good day for you? And then they can come up with, well, next Wednesday work. Okay, great. Let's schedule it for next Wednesday. So this is a way for you to get clear about their commitment. You're already clear about your commitment because you're the one who made the request or the invitation. So you're committed to the yes, but you want to get clear about their commitment so that you can speak to their commitment, to their vision, and support them on fulfilling it. So if they're committed to being on your board, that's their vision. They see something possible in being able to contribute as a board member. So now your job is to get in the sandbox with them and brainstorm on how to make it work for them. And then you end up with people in that conversation that are satisfied with the process of the conversation. You're satisfied with the process. You are in a win-win scenario where you are supporting people on fulfilling their vision as well as yours. Okay, so that was a lot in this episode. I recommend that you re-listen to this episode multiple times so that you can begin to practice not only making clean, powerful requests that are actionable and time-bound and specific and clear, but also practicing, what do you do when somebody says yes? Celebrate. What do you do when somebody says no? You actually get it without adding anything to it. And what do you do when somebody says yes, but get clear about their commitment and then brainstorm with them to fulfill on their vision, on their commitment. And this is a recipe for a very powerful life where you will not be left disappointed with unfulfilled expectations. You will be clear with what you want, and people will either say yes, no, or yes, but, and you can deal with any one of them powerfully. All right. Thanks for joining me in this episode. And I look forward to seeing you in the next episode of Be Unmessable with the podcast. If you got value from today's episode, please rate and review it below. Subscribe if you haven't already subscribed, and share it with anyone you know who is dealing with making invitations and requests. This is like the kind of training that if you practice this, you become like a magic person. All right. See you next time.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Be Unmessable with the podcast. You know, I never take for granted that you've chosen to spend some time with me, and I am committed that you get value every time you do. So if you want to develop your unmessable with muscle to create life versus react to it, click below in the show notes and we will get you into our free promise game process that will enable you to start creating what you want versus waiting for what you want. I look forward to hearing back from you on what you're creating, as well as future topics for the show that might support you in being unmessable with. See you next time.